Welcome back to another episode of Talk Dead to Me, the only Walking Dead podcast with the guts to start at season 10. That music you just heard was from my friend, Gabe Sarkis. Guys, we finally have a theme song. This is very exciting.
It's all happening.
I know. So anyway, I'm Johnny Odell. I'm the social media manager of The Walking Dead. With me, as always, are my co-hosts, who definitely aren't being blackmailed to be here, Woody Tondorf and Alexandria August.
Hi.
Is this today's date on the newspaper? Am I holding it correctly?
Yep, that's it.
Very good.
Now, Alexandra, before we jump into things, where were you when Jennifer Aniston signed up for Instagram?
I was on my way to work. I remember it like it was yesterday.
I got to say, and I bitched about this on Twitter, you know, I grow the audience. I've been growing the audience from 14,000 followers in 2015 to a nice 1.6 million today. And Jennifer Aniston goes from 0 to 5 million followers in the span of 24 hours. And it really just grinds my gears.
It's okay. I'll be there for you.
Well, yeah, Woody, you really can't top that. That's really solid.
I'm sorry, Woody. I think I really want to know what you were going to say.
It's okay, Woody. Just jump into the rundown.
Thanks, you monsters. On today's episode, we'll cover episode 1003, talk with Brandon Davis from comicbook.com, give you an update on Beta's possible backstory and how Alexandra nailed it, listen to some voicemail messages from our listeners, and much more.
I'm really excited for the voicemails. I haven't listened to a lot of them. Also, by the way, guys, we are now available on all major platforms. It's iTunes, Spotify. You got your Google Podcasts, your Stitcher Podcasts, all kinds of platforms.
Fried podcast, grilled podcast.
Podcast burger.
Podcast burgers.
So if you could, whatever platform that you use, if you could please, if available, rate us and subscribe. If you could rate us 5 stars and subscribe, that helps with our visibility and makes us feel really good. So if you could help us out in that way, we would be eternally grateful. And tell your friends.
And mention which one of us in your comment is your favorite, and then we'll point you out and gloat about it to the others.
Yeah, there might be a gift card in it for you if it's me. Maybe.
All right, speaking of gloating, I am not looking forward to this, but we found out this week Beta's actual backstory, origins, we think. Pretty sure. 99%.
Confirmed.
Those who watch Fear the Walking Dead will know that in episode 514, which aired just about a month ago, Daniel and Grace were walking along the road with a bunch of records. They dropped them when walkers attacked, and we got a quick shot of what the records looked like. One of them looked suspiciously like Ryan Hurst in a cowboy hat on the front of one of the records. And so we recently, on a competing show, they asked Ryan Hurst about this, and he said, "All I can say at this point is that maybe Beta was a large personality in the world before the apocalypse, and sort of letting go of that may have been tragic to his psyche." So it looks like, if you guys are avid listeners, you know last week Alexandra predicted that Beta in the past life was a famous country singer, and it looks like that's true in this world.
Jackson, Maine, confirmed.
I want to point out that I called the country singer thing. I did not eagle eye catch the records.
Yeah, but you knew about it, and then everybody else confirmed because they knew that our podcast has such like tremendous reach that they were afraid that like, oh, everybody's going to get onto that, and they wanted to get ahead of it. So we see you, other program.
We see you.
Speaking of reach, last week we did a fun thing where we compared the Walking Dead characters to X-Men characters, and Scott Gimple had an interesting quote this week where he compared the new Rick Grimes movies to Logan, saying that they stood on their own and that the Rick Grimes movies are going to stand on their own. But I think he's also, what he's really doing was he was listening to our podcast intently, taking notes, and was like, wait, who's Rick? And I think he thinks he's Logan. So sorry, Woody.
But we covered that's not true.
It's not true.
Rick is Cable.
Rick is Cable.
Mm-hmm.
Confirmed.
Canon. Daryl is Wolverine.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's hard confirmed. And then we also saw some news. It came out of New York Comic Con, but there's some future stuff coming up for the new Walking Dead virtual reality game, Saints and Sinners. I don't know if any of you have seen the CG trailer. It's real nice. But the gameplay has also come out, and there's been about 6 minutes of gameplay out for folks to check out. I've played it, and I might be a little bit biased, but some VR games make me a little bit sick. This one is a lot of fun to play. It takes place in post-apocalyptic New Orleans, which is new. And there are, I'm not sure if
The
I can
last
talk
place
about...
I would want to be in the apocalypse.
Oh
but
my gosh, yeah. No, between like the... Yeah, it's not a fun place to be. Just in general. Wait, no.
No, I love New Orleans, but it's scary and mysterious, and those are not two words that I want to attract in the apocalypse.
Yeah, they really lean into kind of like the spookiness of New Orleans and like the, just that city's already made for just like a terrifying post-apocalyptic adventures. And so it's great. You do feel like how you would make it in like the post-apocalypse. It's very scary. There are actual choices. I'm really enjoying it.
Do the walkers have Mardi Gras beads? Because I feel like you could hear them better if they
That I can't confirm or deny, but it's New Orleans. It'd be weird if they didn't.
did. Follow up, are they topless?
I mean, aren't all of them?
It depends.
so.
It depends.
Actually, you know what? You don't see, like, far and away, no walkers are ever topless because, like, both from, like, the skinning of what you would have to do in the video game and then also in terms of makeup and stuff like that. Like, it's
Good
just,
point.
nobody has the time to, like, do a whole zombie torso. Like, come on, Johnny.
But you'd think someone would die in the tub,
Yeah.
Or they would die like Elvis style on the toilet, and so there would just be a walk. I just think it'd be funny if there's like a really scary scene and there's one walker just kind of stumbling around with his pants by his ankles.
Yeah,
I
just
think
always
that'd be
tripping
cute.
him, always getting up, always tripping him, getting up.
Not enough
speaking-
walker dicks. All right, so let's jump into the episode. This was a completely different episode from the first two, which were kind of setup episodes to establish our heroes, establish our villains. Now we can finally start the season. All right, so this episode was called Ghosts, and we had a lot of ghosts this episode. Woody, start us off talking 10:03.
Well, first and foremost, we start with another title card with white block letters on black background. This one says 6 a.m. hour 1. So we're continuing that motif, which is pretty interesting. Will be fun to see how they continue to do it through the rest of the season. But it starts with Carol getting out of bed like Keanu Reeves in the movie Street Kings. It's a deep cut for those of you who haven't seen it. It's wonderful.
Wow.
She's getting up. She's popping pills. She's going through her morning routine, which I imagine involves like cleaning a gun while also enjoying a home-baked scone. And then they go out and there are a bunch of walkers that are just coming in. And the hours start to mount up where at first I thought this is their daily routine where they go out and by hour 4, they're still clearing out the walkers like you do. But then the hours keep mounting up and they are still fighting more and more walkers. And you realize that there are just waves of walkers that are coming into Alexandria, and it's pushing everybody to their emotional, physical, psychological limits. And it's terrifying. We have the Whisperer Horde and all of those walkers that are out there, and so they're just releasing steady waves into the Alexandria, so nobody can deal with this stuff. And so they literally do it for 49 hours. So 2 straight days of combat, nobody is sleeping. And then finally, Gamma shows up, newly promoted, wearing her, ask me about my promotion through the Whisperer's badge, which I assume is made of skin and nails. And she's like, hey, go and meet with us. Alpha wants to have a talk with you guys. And so they have a big press conference about, should we go and meet with them? It's very much the Harvey Dent press conference from Dark Knight. One of the surviving highwaymen basically yells, no more dead cops. And everybody's kind of we don't know what to do. And the whole point is, because of this prolonged physical and psychological assault from the Whisperers, everybody for the duration of the episode is at their wit's end. So everybody's at their breaking point. Nobody has a filter. No one's gotten any sleep. And that carries across through all the rest of the interactions for the rest of the episode.
So you guys are on team. This was definitely Alpha sending these waves.
No.
Go on.
I think I kind of agree with Lydia. She's she wouldn't just send waves. She would just attack. And also it looked like Alpha was pretty confused when she found her, nearly 100,000 horde gone. And Lydia says in the press conference she would have sent the horde. She wouldn't just send these waves. And like I said, Alpha looked confused. So I think something happened to the herd. And they're dispersing, and so they are coming in waves because that's how they're naturally dispersing.
It just seems I can understand that, but it also to me it seems baffling to me that Alpha and the Whisperers wouldn't know where their nuke is. That's not just something that can go wandering off somewhere, and they're oh, that's weird. They keep showing up in a rather continuous pattern here. So
But I thought that's what happened at the end of the season premiere and last episode was that we saw Alpha discover that they were gone. And I just assumed they had dispersed while they were wintering someplace.
I don't think that she was confused. I thought that she knew. She was just at that canyon. I don't know. She didn't look. She was smiling like up at the sun. She wasn't like, "Where are they all at?" She just casually looks up at Carol.
So it's not
don't
entirely
know.
clear. Like,
Okay.
I don't think it's clear one way or the other because the Whispers do go out of their way to be like, they're not ours, but like, there's nobody else who we've met. And I'm trying to rack my brain for thinking about any other like enemy faction that would have the wherewithal to. I mean, those are Whisper tactics, like top to bottom. So like either somebody's playing really great Whisper cover songs, or like and sidebar, Negan has the best nickname for the Whispers of all time because of course he has to call them the Skins. Which is just like perfect. Like if your show comes out each season around the time the football starts, that's a great thing to name the Whispers.
Alexandria sounds like it's in Washington D.C. I mean, they're not far actually. They probably would be bitching about the Skins had the apocalypse not hit. But these damn Skins always ruining my day. I mean, the Redskins right now are I think 1-5. They're terrible, and I mean we can get into that later. But
We cannot. Let's.
Oh, okay. We won't. All right. So anyway, this brings us all to sort of the matchup we've been waiting for, and it actually happened way earlier in the episode than you would think. Typically, I think in other years, the Carol, Michonne, Daryl versus Alpha sort of meetup would usually be reserved for the end of the episode, but they're like, F it. Let's just put it at the beginning of the episode. So that's what brought us here.
I kind of liked how Gamma just like, as cool as can be, was like, yo, Alpha wants to talk to you, and walks away.
Yeah.
Like, there's no.
They're like, maybe not. She's like, no, you're gonna go talk to her.
Yeah, there's like,
I don't know if you've met her.
Remember the heads on the pikes? Yeah. That's, she will do that again. You guys have more heads. She has more pikes.
Maybe go think about it. Maybe have a movie night.
So anyway, this brought us to the much anticipated meetup between Carol and Alpha, which didn't disappoint. Obviously, Carol has some feelings, even though she was saying, when I look at you, I feel nothing. And Carol's like, oh, really? Because I beheaded...
Alpha says...
Sorry. What did I say?
Carol says, I feel nothing. And Alpha looks at her being like, that's kind of our ethos.
Do ya?
You might fit in.
That's true.
In another time, in another place,
let me start that one more time. It'll take 2 seconds.
Sure.
Yeah, so Carol goes up to Alpha and says, I look at you and I don't feel anything. And Alpha's like, oh, really? Because I seem to remember I beheaded your son a few months ago. And Carol's like, you son of a bitch! And just takes out a gun and like clearly triggered, literally.
Yeah.
She has a gun. And they were like, hey, let's not bring guns here. And Carol's breaking all the rules. She's kind of that petulant child that is always in detention.
But again, Magneto.
But the thing about that is like, every time, like in past seasons, there is like a time-honored tradition of when a big bad comes and murders all of your friends, one of the characters is so bent out of shape that they go to like whatever like ceasefire or peace meeting, and they always bring a gun and they always take a shot at the big bad, and it never works. Like
Daryl, Glenn,
Rosita, I think with Negan.
That happened.
Yeah.
Shot his bat. Shot Lucille.
Oh, you don't do that. You don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't shoot Lucille.
Triggered. To be fair.
Literally triggered. But, I think Alpha's really smart, and I think she knows exactly where Carol is in her mental state. And I think she's like, instead of punishing this person, I'm going to let Carol unravel because she's clearly, upsetting the group. The group is all kind of trying to play by the rules, and Carol doesn't want to play by the rules. And so she doesn't flinch. She doesn't try to punish them. I mean, she is moving the border. They literally take the spikes up like, 300, like, Roman warriors or something. But I don't know.
Alpha likes to play with her food, and
yes, she does. She absolutely does.
Yeah, and that's kind of one reason where, like, when I think about it, I do think that's entirely possible. She sent the herds and waves just to mess with them, just to make sure they were tired, so that when they get to this meetup, that she's like, we're going to do this, and you're not going to object.
And, she and Negan actually have a lot of similarities because Negan also likes to play with his food, like he did with Daryl. Like, he could have killed Daryl for trying to jump him during the kneel down ceremony thing. But instead, he decided to enslave him and, subject him to repetitive songs and dog
Try
food.
to break him.
And labor. Yeah, and he did break Daryl. Daryl was straight up broken for like half a season. And I think she's kind of doing the same thing with Carol a little bit. By taunting her, and it makes me wonder if Alpha and Negan will actually meet like they did in the comics, because they're kind of a perfect match.
I see your what I think I see your point, and I do think they're very perfectly matched, which makes me really excited to see them together. But I think the key difference here, and I think where we're going to see Negan have some character growth, well, like I'm guessing, I mean, this is kind of how it happens in the comics, or less so, but I think we're going to see him juxtaposed against her, and we're going to see that side of Negan that, yeah, like the sort of people are a resource. We kill the rightest people in the wrongest way. I don't want to excuse all the crazy, awful things that Negan has done, but I think the reason he's still around is that this is what he thought would work. And he was trying, and yes, Road to Hell paved good intentions. The fact that you have good intentions does still matter to a degree when you're running around in the world. Alpha doesn't have any good intentions. She's just batshit.
It's true.
In a really entertaining way. Thank you, Smith Martin.
Yeah, so we survived the Alpha meetup, thank God, even though Carol took a shot at their enemy.
Did her best to, really, really throw a wrench into
This
all
isn't
that.
the Carol I want to see, man. I wanted to see the Carol who wasn't even at this meet, and all of a sudden all the pikes just explode because she made some grenades.
And Carol really only goes downhill from here. I mean, she starts hallucinating the shit out of things. She starts seeing whispers that aren't there. She starts seeing kids that aren't there. She goes full after-school special Jesse Spano from Saved by the Bell. I mean,
she's popping uppers.
So she calls
like Tic Tacs.
So she's popping pills the entire episode.
It feels like every 15 minutes. I'm like, girl, you're gonna OD.
She's popping a lot of pills. We don't know exactly what she's popping. She says it's basically coffee, which, Alexandra, I think when we were watching it together yesterday, you said, "Oh, this is speed."
I mean, I assumed white pill makes you awake, and like in the history of television, usually that just falls under the broad category of speed. I was gonna say, I started to roll my eyes a little bit about the idea that there is prescription speed in the apocalypse, but they have raided an awful lot of pharmacies. So I was like, oh yeah, they probably are like decently well equipped when it comes to that.
There's a couple things at work there where that could be any number of things from like no dose to just like
Totally.
full on just like pharmaceutical fucking speed. But like it's also being administered from Dr. Dante, so like it could be anything really.
Oh Jesus!
He doesn't get less shifty this episode, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, so they end up at a school where Carol, really the hallucinations come on real strong, and actually one of probably the scariest episodes since 908.
100%.
Yeah, very creepy.
Very creepy. So I mean, Carol is hallucinating hard, and I mean she sees all the kids that she was somehow involved with dying throughout the series in a home ec book on the cover. I mean, we see Sophia.
Their throats are slit.
Yeah.
Not all of them, just Henry.
I feel like there might have been one or two. There was some like extra damage to a couple of them. Either that was how they passed or not. Because like Sophia also had some like damage to the neck. It looked like.
Oh yeah.
But
Well,
It was really, really creepy.
it was creepy. We saw Sophia, Sam, Mika, Lizzie,
Henry.
Henry.
Who gives a shit?
Jesus. You always have hot takes on Henry.
I was sadder about Sam than I was about Henry. Sorry, Henry.
Sam, he was the worst.
I know, I was just like, oh, Carol, you scared the wits out of this little kid and it got him killed. That's fucked up.
And we actually saw Henry appear briefly behind a door, and we see him later in the episode. And The Walking Dead's not new to this. They did this when Tyrese was dying. He imagined seeing the governor and Mika and Lizzie in the bedroom with him. We've seen this a lot. Rick had hallucinations as he was, quote-unquote, dying at 9:05.
Also, Lori. After Lori died, he kept seeing her, and he had that brief spell of, like, maybe Rick's not going to make it at the prison.
So, Woody, what did you think about Carol's hallucinations?
I thought it was really interesting stuff that made you play around with the idea of, like, and the question that we're asking as we go through the whole storyline with Carol is, like, is Carol actually seeing things? How much of this is in her head? How much of it isn't? And things that we think are absolutely real turn out to be, 30 seconds later to be complete fallacies. So
yeah, like the Daryl dad truck driver story was really well executed.
Oh my God, I was shook.
I mean, yeah, because we talked about while we were watching that if there's anything I believe about Daryl, it's that his dad was a truck driver.
Yeah,
and they have a full-on conversation about it, and then later Carol references that when Daryl is like, "Hey, are you okay?" And she's like, "Listen, I'm not your drug-addicted father who hallucinated a ghost." And Daryl's like, "Whoa, that escalated quickly."
What are you talking about?
And she says, and she apologizes, and he just doesn't even know what she's talking about.
My dad wasn't even a truck driver. He was just a meth head.
It would be funny if like she
didn't have
had
a
the
job.
vision and she just like says this hallucination. He's like, wait, how did you know my dad was a truck driver?
Yeah. Yeah. Wait a minute. We find out she has like
really
psychic
nailed it.
powers.
Yeah, that's strange.
And she has psychic powers because she's Jean Grey. One of the other big storylines was between Negan and Aaron.
Oh, I loved it.
Yep.
So Alexandra, talk about it. What'd you love about it? I love these scenes.
Okay.
Sorry. Sorry, one more time.
Alexandra, what did you say your favorite part was? Mine was this bit.
Well, actually.
Well, I also want another bit.
I'll let you speak in 20 minutes.
Anyway, so I'm a big fan of Negan, just period. I'm a big fan of Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I really enjoy the character. So anytime we get some extended Negan time, I'm happy. But this is a character we haven't seen him paired with a whole lot. And Aaron has a bone to pick with Negan because Aaron's the love of Aaron's life. Aaron's husband, Eric, died during the Whisperer War in a really, really touching scene. And Aaron is also just out of fucks. Jesus is dead. Aaron has a lot of anger to burn. He got a brand new mace hand.
Oh, it's so
ready
cool.
to use
Mace
it.
hand.
So Gabriel, but everybody's exhausted, so Gabriel sends Negan with Aaron, and we get them clearing zombies and trying to get along. And Negan keeps trying to convince Aaron that he can do better if he's given a crowbar, if he's given a little bit more freedom. And Aaron just doesn't care, and he wants to punish Negan. And so the back and forth between these two is interesting because Aaron is very justified in his feelings, and Negan. This is the first time we see him sort of play with a little bit of sensitivity. And we know he's got it because he's good at manipulating people and he's good at spotting their vulnerable spots. But we've never seen him really exercise it. I think maybe a little bit with Carl. We rarely see him exercise that sensitivity and kindness in a real way. So I loved it. I both loved that Negan watched Aaron fumble around in the dark after he's blinded by some hogweed that was growing out of a walker, which was a really great device. Let's see more poisonous plant walkers. But so it was really annoying watching Aaron stumble around, go, Negan, and then to walk into the cabin and Negan's just sitting there like, yeah, bitch.
There were so many things about the Negan and Aaron adventure hour that I just absolutely found so delightful. Like when Aaron attaches like the spiky mace on the end of his hand, like Negan looks at it and he just goes, "So that's awesome," which excellent.
It lets you know also like just exactly what kind of guy Negan was pre-apocalypse.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The delight that Negan takes into all of these things that like keep going on, and also like just quick sidebar: what other weapon attachments does Aaron have for that arm?
Go gadgets.
What does it have a sickle? Like, is there one with like a mace on a chain? Like, has Eugene just like gone in the lab and come out with like all of these like handy dandy things? We'll see later on this season, maybe. I hope.
And we know the trial and error of using the mace hand has probably been problematic. Some off-screen mishaps.
Yeah, somewhere in like the time gap, there was like a couple weeks where like Aaron like buried one in like a tree and then like pulled it out too fast and then like clipped his shoulder or something.
Or like accidentally went to scratch his nose.
Yeah. Oh my god.
But like it's like kind of towards the end of that, after once Aaron gets into the cabin, Negan reveals himself and sort of explains what's happening very, very calmly. And then the next day, Aaron wakes up and Negan's by the window and Negan's like, "Can you see me? You're all right?" And Aaron says, "Yeah." And they seem to have achieved some kind of peace. And that specific moment with Negan by the window, I don't know what struck me so much about him. He seemed kind of sad, and he seemed... I think I'm glad that we had this because I think it's going to be really hard for people to believe that he is working against the survivors, which I like. I want Negan to have a little bit of a heroic redemption arc, and I didn't want to spend half the season believing that he was because if they do follow the comics storyline and he kind of quote unquote defects to the Whisperers, I want to believe that he's working for the survivors, and I think this was here in order to make sure that we believe that.
I also just really loved the idea of Negan sitting in that little cabin for like an hour and like just guessing, I suppose, that Aaron's gonna pick like that one cabin, or like did he go to a different cabin and sees Aaron like stumbling towards another one? He's like, "Oh shoot, I gotta sneak past him real quick here so he doesn't see me and sit here real cool like I've been here for hours." And here he comes.
Negan loves a good bit.
Yep.
He definitely does. And Negan definitely could have killed Aaron in that moment, but I think he, like we saw in last season, he knows what's out there, which is nothing. And he knows killing Aaron does nothing for him. And I think he still, like his comic counterpart, wants to prove himself in Alexandria. And that's why he ends up helping him, even though Aaron got really close by mentioning his wife. And Negan was very tricky. He took every ounce of his body not to like hop on Aaron.
I'm going to confess a little bit of TV show ignorance, and we can cut this if nobody knows the answer. But when did we establish that that Negan publicly let people know that he had a wife?
Well, I know he told Gabe. And
Okay.
I would imagine Gabe has, I feel like Gabe takes his vows seriously enough to not reveal that.
But they
Not
didn't
enough
like.
to lock out his entire congregation to get eaten by zombies.
Gabe is full of contradictions.
He's got layers.
Also, I don't remember. This is from season 8 that you're talking about. I don't remember them like pinky promising that they'll never talk about it. I'm sure Gabe has said it. Also, Negan used to have multiple wives when he was a savior. But yes, obviously Aaron was speaking about his wife before the
Lucille.
apocalypse. Yeah,
Yeah.
Lucille.
And I
literally
believe
Lucille.
the only time we heard those details about Lucille's death, which Aaron directly references, was when he conveyed them to Gabriel. So I think we could assume that Gabriel has told maybe people who need to know.
Snitches.
Yeah. Questionable decision on the part of a priest, but like we said, a lot of contradictions in Gabe.
All right, and then the episode ends with this whisperer who we were unsure if Carol was imagining or not in the gymnasium, who kind of hogtied her, and turns out she was real, so great.
Well, I think actually, yeah, you're right. I think that just kind of confirms that Alpha was sending the whisperers, which makes sense because I bet if people find out that Alpha was doing that, it's going to make Lydia look like an infiltrator. It's going to make her look like a double agent because she swore up and down that her mom wouldn't do that. That's kind of what I was basing it on. But I was snowed too. Alpha's good, guys.
She's real good. She's been knocking it out the last couple episodes. And you were talking about when they're at the border, just a couple things that like Alpha just keeps doing. Like when she's talking to her people, she appears to be human. You know, she talks in her same, creepy way. But when she meets all of the other survivors, she like gets into more of a kind of like unnatural, like her like body language and posture and the way that she like conveys herself gets a little more slinky, a little more like creepy looking, like not necessarily like the walker shuffle, but like just like off-putting, like animalistic, like movements of her head and body that
very
just kind of like
serpentine.
Exactly, it's just kind of like off-putting and like just really conveys that whole like "don't fuck with me" energy.
It's a good choice. It's a really good, strong choice from Samantha Morton to do this. Like this is, I know I'm a broken record. I love her so much, but she's imbued this character with so much depth.
Yeah,
and it's fun to see like the really, really deep parts, and it's fun to see like the affectatious movement stuff that she does.
All right, with our recap over, this brings us to our exciting new segment that we've been sitting on for the last 3 episodes called Dunked On.
Ooh, dunked on.
That's the 3 of us.
We did a great job.
We did. It's actually the 2 of you, but yes.
That's
did
the
a great
2
job.
of us.
Which 2? We'll leave it to you.
So who's this? Yeah.
All right, so how this works is the 3 of us are each going to give our quick take on who got dunked on the hardest this week. That's a basketball reference for all you non-sports heads.
It means they got.
They got.
Just really insulted.
They got clowned.
Alexandra, who got dunked on this episode?
Swish.
God, poor Eugene. Just Eugene. Everyone's nerves are raw, and he cannot take no for an answer. And he's just one of those guys that thinks if I'm friends with her long enough, I'll wear her down. And he thinks that, and for the past couple of years, he's honestly believed that if he just waited it out, that Rosita would at some point discover that she has feelings for him. And as a woman, just PSA. That rarely, if ever, happens. The rom-coms have lied to you. If we don't like you within a couple of weeks of trying to see if it works, odds are that's not going to change. And if you try to be our friend in an insidious fashion in the hopes that it will change, that will not help your case. FYI. Eugene does this a little bit more innocently, but Rosita finally has to just shut him down, and it's kind of sad.
Eugene's playing the super long game. Like, they came in together. Like, they met when Abraham was still around. Like, back in Texas.
He used to watch her having sex.
Oh, yeah, that was a thing.
Eugene used to be a lot creepier.
And now he's just slightly less creepy. Now he's just measuring kids every day.
Now we're just used to it.
just obsessing over babies.
For me, I think, for my dunked on, I think Carol got dunked on by her own brain. And also the drugs.
Nailed it.
We'll call them caffeine pills, but we know what they are.
She also got dunked on by that whisperer.
Oh, man. Like,
hard.
We didn't talk about this, but just like super briefly, like she walks into a high school gymnasium, like a basketball court. She sees a walker, but that's clearly a whisperer. The whisperer takes a step back, and out of the entire gym floor, she takes a step onto like a noose or some trap.
Yeah,
that, like strings her up out of like
Like Robin Hood style.
It's the
Your
least
classic, yeah.
It's the least Carol move I've ever seen. Like, and that tells you like the state that she's in at that point. But like, it was just kind of like, oh man, of all the places to step, right in the trap. Like, yeah, come on.
She
Carol.
starts blindly shooting. Like, listen, it's hard to aim a gun when you're upright and sober. It's way difficult
but even
when you're
on
high.
But even on
Upside
speed.
down.
But even on speed, she was great. I mean, she ended up, we cut to her. All the walkers are dead, and Daryl's like, "What happened?" So
Yeah, inverted. She still no scopes the Whisperer. Just skin.
That's
sorry.
true. That is true. I should give her more credit.
all right, and that was our first ever segment, Dunked On.
Ooh, dunked on. Top notch.
We are thirsty for segments, so the next segment we got going on is Shot Takes.
Ooh, shot takes.
Son of a bitch. All right, Woody, what is your quick shot take of the week?
Oh, Negan 2.0 is going to become the new Rick. And,
Oh.
And to wit, Negan will become the new person running Alexandria by the end of this season. Gabe will be dead. Michonne will have left. Aaron is not leadership material. Negan is going to take the throne of Alexandria as a new man, the best of both worlds, none of the weaknesses, all of the strengths. I can't wait. It's going to be a brand new day.
Wow,
Negan 2020.
that sounds awesome, honestly. Negan run Walking Dead show, I'm down.
So excited for it.
My shot take is that Daryl always leaves during big moments. This happened during Michonne's flashback in season 9 when she had to murder a bunch of kids by herself to save Judith, smiling Judith. So glad that actress is gone. Just kidding.
The little one?
She was awful.
We can try it again.
Stop. She was 3.
Carl's like, Judith, always remember me. And she's like,
Yeah. She's a toddler.
yeah, she's like 4.
Yeah, but how much were the good
No,
toddlers?
no. She was like 2 or 3. She couldn't even talk.
God awful.
Stop being mean to babies.
But act
for that.
with your eyes, baby. Come
Smize.
Gentlemen.
on. Come on, emote. Have more of a personality. Ostensibly, they auditioned a few of them.
All right, so my shot take is that Daryl always leaves during big moments. One of the other examples, it was in season 9 during the flashback with Michonne. She was forced to kill all those kids to save Judith. She kills them all by herself, along with her college friend, and then Daryl shows up at the end, just like he did this episode after someone had killed a bunch of things, and then was like, what's going on?
He did do that.
He did the exact same thing. And Daryl is such a badass. He's so capable, but I don't know if he's like taking a shit. I don't know. I mean, they were in a school. There were stalls. There was maybe not plumbing, but they had, a toilet. Maybe he was, checking himself out in the mirror. We know he wasn't bathing. Who knows?
Rolling another cigarette.
Just my hot take is I think Daryl should be a little bit more involved.
He's helping other places. He's helping off camera.
Just thinking about dog.
Thinking about dog.
Aren't we all? Alex, really quick, what is your shot take?
My shot take is that Carol will be the new Rick.
Whoa.
Oh!
Oh!
Just came out of nowhere.
She'll grow a beard.
Twist. Yeah. Well, I think I was thinking about this the other day because I did not have a hot take after the episode because I just didn't. And I was thinking about it last night, and it seems to me that I think Carol is going to go through some serious slings and arrows this season, and she's going to have to reconcile her revenge and what she wants and her feelings with what's best for the group and what's best for this war, and like whether or not she wants to live within that hatred forever. I think Carol's finally gonna have to sort of face her own grief, and I don't think that's just grief at Henry. I think that's grief at Sophia. I think that's grief at Lizzie and Mika and all the children that she's lost, and just in general, I think. The last time we saw Carol like this was in Alexandria. She had a lover, and she just decided she couldn't be emotional. She couldn't form attachments, so she went away. And then then Zeke sort of coaxes her back, and she has this wonderful life with him. But then, it gets ripped away from her again, and she abandons it. So I think it's time for Carol to evolve to a state of being that recognizes what she's lost, but also recognizes what she had. And I think that she's very, very well positioned to be an incredible leader. I think that Negan probably has. I think Negan's kind of an equally exciting candidate for that. If we even do get it, we'll have to get somebody new who's leading things. I think Negan's a cool prospect for that, but I think Carol could be a dark horse with that because I think when she lets go of that just white hot pain, I feel like she might be more at peace and might want to might be qualified and might want to lead these people.
I think that's a really interesting character journey too, considering the place that she's in at season 1, and watch that like that growth of just like a battered woman who's just kind of like following along with the group, but is and like finding her own like sense of self, then becoming like over the course of like tragedy and like combat and just general stress, like letting that form a crucible into like a leader of people. And she's been equipped with like the tools and the emotional strength to get to that place too, over like this journey that she's put herself on. I think that's a really interesting and fascinating take.
Yeah, I mean, and she's Carol's smart. Carol understands human beings. I think it's herself that she's got to really wrestle with. I also don't know that Ezekiel's going to survive this season, and so who knows? Carol may just disappear.
Dead.
All right, now on to our guest of the week. You guys probably know him. You read him. It is Brandon Davis from comicbook.com. Can't wait for you guys to hear this interview, what his takes are on this episode and the rest of season 10. All right, with me right now is Brandon Davis. Brandon, obviously you're a staple among the Walking Dead family, but for anyone unfamiliar, tell the people who you are and what you do.
Thank you. I like that introduction. A staple. I'm Brandon Davis. My friends call me BD. I am the guy from comicbook.com. I, for the past 5 years now, have spent time on the set, spent time around the country at cons, just kind of following the show around, doing interviews, and feeling like a cool little step cousin to the Walking Dead family. It's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I feel like fans actually recognize you at this point.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Walking Dead season 10 premiere was cool. Like, I mean, there were some fans lined up or like at like a convention, like New York Comic Con or like a Walking Dead convention. Occasionally people will be like, "Oh yeah, comicbook.com, love your site." And I'm like, dude, that means the world. Thank you.
Do people think you run comicbook.com? You kind of seem like the face at this point.
Yeah, I do think a lot of people are under the impression that I run comicbook.com. Here's the thing. There's a lot of us here and a lot of people with more knowledge than me, both about different things within the things we cover and about how to run a business. So I just get to be the one in front of the camera a lot of the time.
That's awesome. All right. So now to the episode 1003 called Ghosts. We are kind of close to Halloween. How does this episode rank for you in terms of Walking Dead, like scary Walking Dead episodes?
I think,
you think
the
it was
scariest
scary?
episode I've seen in a while was the Jesus death episode.
Yes.
And since then, I don't know if I've been too scared. This one, I just think the scene in the field with Alpha was pretty creepy, and the Carol stuff was pretty trippy. And I feel like whenever we get to explore stuff like that, I know like the Greg Nicoteros on set just geek out because they're such horror buffs. I did think last week's was a little scarier with like the machete in the hallway and the mask and all that.
Yeah.
But it was pretty good. I feel like we got back to the horror roots recently. It's good to be dark and bloody and scary, but not just for the sake of being dark and bloody and scary, for the sake of like serving the story. I like it.
Right. And you actually got the first 3 episodes all at once. So how would you rank them?
That's tough. I think I would put. I think I liked the Whisperer episode the most. Which might be a hot take. I've seen divided reactions to that, but my opinion, uninfluenced by everyone else's opinion, I think I would. It's tough because I really liked 1 and 3, but I think I would put 1003 in third place out of the first 3. But that's not to say I didn't like it because I really did. I just think they were all very good episodes. I think it would go 2, 1, 3.
Gotcha. That's fair. So Carol, who's been around since season 1, you'd think they'd be out of story with her, but evidently they're not. They finally addressed the fact that anytime she's around a kid, they usually end up dying. And, they all appeared on that home ec book. So she kind of went off the deep end this episode doing, I think, speed. Maybe they'll call it caffeine pills. I don't know what she was actually doing. But do you think she'll keep spiraling, or will she sort of figure it out?
I think Carol always has a way of figuring it out, and if she doesn't, I'll be very upset. But I think she's going through a really tough time, and she through the 10 years, Carol has always gone through peaks and valleys, where she's experiencing something tragic. It puts her at a low point, and then she takes that low point and finds a way to spin it into a high point, and she becomes very protective, and she emerges as a leader again, and she admits that she loves everybody and wants to spend time with them after saying she wanted to be isolated. And then something terrible happens again, and this woman just can't catch a break. And then she goes back into this isolation period of what's going to happen, and then something happens. I think something will come along again where she'll realize the group needs her, and she needs the group, and she'll come through this. And she's lost how many kids now? It's brutal. But, if you don't go a little bit crazy after these things, I would think you're definitely crazy.
Absolutely. So we saw her finally meet Alpha face to face at the border. Why do you? And she even took a shot at her, even though they had a no gun rule. Why don't you think Alpha just had Carol killed right there, like almost Negan style? Like, does she like playing with her food? Do you think, or what's the long game that Alpha's playing here?
I think it's because Alpha this is Alpha showing weakness as a mother, not because being a mother makes you weak, but because by Alpha's terms of life, Alpha's rules of living, that through Alpha's ideology, it's weakness, because you're not supposed to care. You're not supposed to have sympathy or any feelings toward anybody. And now that Alpha has lost her daughter, she knows what that feels like. So I think that she understands why Carol is so upset. And while she is acting tough and manipulating the group and making sure that she is the Alpha, she also understands why Carol did what she did, because of her situation with Lydia weighing on her so unexpectedly. I think that and it's the same reason she didn't kill Gamma's sister last week when they were in the cave and she just kind of squeezed her head or whatever she did. I think that it's the same thing. It's Alpha by Alpha's definition being weak, but also trying to look like the Alpha and spin it as, I'm not gonna, but I could.
Yeah, and speaking of people who definitely could have killed another person, we had a lot of great scenes between Negan and Aaron, Ross and Jeffrey. What do you think is the reason that Negan also didn't kill Aaron? Is he following his comic storyline where he genuinely wants to be seen and respected in Alexandria?
Well, you kind of took the words right out of my brain there. I think he was kind of just fulfilling the comic book story. I love that those pages between Rick and Negan where they end up saving each other are probably the highlight of the entire comic for me. I love the dynamic there.
Wow.
And I just thought that was so much fun to read. I thought Kirkman did such a good job writing that relationship and the tension, but we need each other, but we don't want to need each other. And that's kind of what happened in the episode. But I don't think Negan saved Aaron. I just got off the phone with Ross Marquand, who is Aaron, and this is what he said, and I think he's right. I mean, he would know better than anybody, but I think what he said makes total sense, and I didn't think of this until he said it. I don't think Negan saved Aaron necessarily out of wanting to be a hero or wanting to be accepted or looking for redemption or forgiveness. I think Negan recognized the necessity in saving Aaron, not only because he needed Aaron to help him survive in this situation, but also if Aaron died and Negan tried to return to Alexandria with Aaron dead, do you think there would be a welcome party for Negan, or do you think there'd be a search party out to kill him?
Right, exactly. And he already knows what's out there for him outside of Alexandria, and it's really nothing.
Nothing.
It's a lot of sitting around, but that's awesome. Love that inside information.
Zombies and vans and everything.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of the comics, what other comic moments? We haven't seen too many of them this season so far. What comic storyline beats do you hope they hit this season?
Negan and Beta, man. I mean, I feel like the Whisperer War has to end this season, and I think it will. I don't know. It's going to be interesting because the show doesn't have a reputation for moving at a fast pace. I mean, the Governor lasted a couple seasons. The All Out War lasted 2.5 seasons, basically, from the time we first started hearing of Negan until the time it ended. So the show always kind of makes the comic stories last a little bit longer than they do by comparison in the books, I feel like. But I feel like the Whisperer War is one of those things, how much more can we do before we just reach this war? So, and Angela Kang has been so on point with her pacing that I feel like we have to get to Negan becoming a soldier, and maybe Aaron fills out the role of Dwight since Dwight isn't here anymore, because he has a huge conflict with Negan as well that Negan would love to kind of just keep poking at, but also be going to battle alongside him. I would love to see that. I'd love to see Negan kill Alpha the way he does in the books, but at the same time, it's like we didn't have this Carol Alpha drama, so only one person gets to kill her. Who should it be? I don't know. Oh.
It's really exciting. I don't actually know. I usually get episodes early. I still don't know, so I can't wait to get any kind of answers on that. Do you have any definite locks for who's definitely going to live and who's definitely going to die by the end of season 10?
I have a prediction that Ezekiel's going to die. I think he's getting This Is Us. I totally think he's getting Jack Pearson.
He's going to leave the crockpot on in the house?
Well, no, I think it already happened because there's we all look at the synopsis when they come out for all the episodes and stuff. And there's one that says something like Ezekiel's keeping a secret or something. And I think Ezekiel inhaled a whole bunch of smoke at the satellite, just like Jack Pearson, and it's getting to him and it's going to catch up. And he does where are we going with Ezekiel now? I like Ezekiel, but when characters run out of story on the show, now that he doesn't have Carol anymore, they just tend to, things don't go their way. So I'm worried for my boy Ezekiel. And there's a strict one doctor rule. Everybody knows that. Enid learned it. A lot of other doctors before her have learned it. So Dante and Sadiq, they ain't both making it out of this season.
Wow. Those are great takes. I think all of those are very plausible. Who do you think had the biggest upset? Rick winning all out war against Negan or South Carolina winning over Georgia?
Oh, let me tell you something about South Carolina winning over Georgia. That we have been we've had the Georgia's Negan's boot at our throat for 4 years in a row. We had season 7 and 8 for the past 4 years, and guess what? We had our season 8 finale last Saturday, and it was great. Go Gamecocks! Great reference. Biggest upset of all time. But listen, we didn't have Eugene Porter on our side, so I think Rick's upset was pretty shocking. I think even Rick was shocked.
I agree. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Brandon went to the University of South Carolina. I grew up in South Carolina. University of South Carolina is the original USC. It was a college before California was a state. Don't at me. Go Gamecocks.
Yes, so it's a real USC.
Yes. All right. So final question, really important. Anyone who follows you on social media will know that you're pretty friendly with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So I guess my last question is, we know what The Rock's cooking, but what does Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson smell like?
He smells like sweat and tequila.
Wow. Is he as nice as, he just seems like one of those flawless human beings where you're just like, what's wrong with this guy?
Man, it's I'll tell you, I've been fortunate to meet a lot of my heroes, I guess is the way to put it. I've interviewed so many really awesome people who, just to be in the room with them, it's like people would fly across the country and literally spend money to do it, at cons and stuff. Like I've been there too, but through this job, I've been lucky to meet so many people and have conversations with so many people. But there are so few celebrities I've met that when you sit down and talk with them, you feel like you're talking to an old friend, even though it's the first time you talk with them. When you sit down and talk with The Rock, and I'm sure he has like an on and an off switch, and when he's talking to press, the switch is on. It's like us when we're on social media, we're always on,
right.
All that. But what you see is what you get. What The Rock looks like on Instagram as a person is the person The Rock is when you meet him. And I'll never forget the first time I interviewed him, and I sat down, and I was sitting across from him and Jack Black and Kevin Hart, and it was for Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. And he knew comicbook.com. He knew I was from South Carolina. He told all of this to Kevin Hart, and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, The Rock knows who I am. And it's because he takes the time to make sure he knows who he's talking to. And there's so few people who do anything like that. I don't even know why you need to do that, but it makes you feel special in that moment. Like, it's awesome. And I think the only people I could really even compare such an experience to are like that level of charisma and sophistication, that impressive level of it, are probably like Will Smith, Tom Hiddleston, or maybe even Chris Pratt. But it's just, he's a next level. He's different.
Wow. Good as advertised. That is awesome
and
to hear.
I'm ready for him to play Mercer on The Walking Dead.
Oh my God, dude. So Yeah, that was so amazing that we got Boss Logic involved in that. That was insane. How some fan was just like, that'd be cool. I was like, Boss Logic, do your thing. And he did his thing.
Dude, Boss Logic is so talented. And when he dropped that thing, that image of The Rock as Mercer, I was like, I know this could probably never happen. The Rock is already the busiest person on the damn planet. But the thought of it is so cool.
Oh my God. Or just, have Mercer make a cameo, as The Rock in the movies. I think people would go see the movies.
Mercer for the movies and then put The Rock in there.
Save Mercer for the movies. Absolutely. All right, well, Brandon, thanks so much for being my guest on Talk Dead to Me. Tell the people how they can read you and where they can follow you on social media.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Johnny. This was fun. You guys can find me on social media at Brandon Davis BD on all platforms. If you're so inclined, I post lots of photos of myself on Instagram. It's so much fun.
Nice. Well, you can't get that anywhere else. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks, Johnny. I'll talk to you soon.
And that was real person Brandon Davis. Speaking of real people, we had people call into our voice line for the first time ever.
That's crazy.
Yes. And by the way, if you guys want to call into the voice line, we'll give you the number again later, but it is 213-536-1275. Leave us a voicemail. We usually have a question that prompts you to leave an answer, but you can call in and just give your thoughts on an episode if you want. Who knows?
Yeah.
Please do. Please do.
Maybe you've got something for Dunked On. Maybe you've got a shot take.
And we will... Oh, pardon me.
Maybe you want to board the USS Shipwatch. We've got segments and you've got answers. Tell us your thoughts.
We have tickets.
TLDR, we want to hear from you. And if you leave us a voicemail, we might play it at the very end of the episode.
So this week, we asked the fans if you would rather fight 4 goose-sized betas or 1 beta-sized goose.
It's a tough one.
It's the age-old question.
It is the age-old question.
What's the meaning of life? And then also the question I just asked. So we had some interesting answers. And we're going to play a few of them for you right now.
These are real people.
These are real people. We did not disguise our voices, which is what...
Maybe you guys didn't.
Yeah. Challenge accepted.
Hello, this is Avery and Elijah. We live in Boise, Idaho, and we would definitely fight a beta-sized goose so we could just chop the head off like a boss. Peace.
Avery and Elijah?
Avery and Elijah.
But it was 4 beta-sized gooses.
Or
geese.
Very, very
Get
letter
out.
Kenny of you.
Get out.
Canadian gooses.
Wait, that was your problem? They were talking about beheading geese, and
Look, if you have a problem to solve, behead that geese.
you got to behead that.
With
that geese?
But
How many caffeine pills did you take before this podcast? I know you want to get in character.
I was an English major.
I want to talk about how these guys are just making up rules as they go. We never said that there was any sort of weaponry involved. So unless these guys have the sharpest knife hands I've ever seen.
All we said was fight. We never said fight only with
We
your
didn't
fist.
specify. That's
fight
on us.
Could be weapons. Yeah, we have to be specific. It's like genie wishes. You can't just say, I want to fly, because then they'll just make you fly at like 2 feet above the ground going 1 mile an hour.
But that's
useless.
horseshit. But you can also apply on the other side. Like, how do you know that goose isn't armored up to the hilt? Like, why doesn't the goose have a knife like Untitled Goose Game?
That's on us.
Moving on to our next voicemail.
I like it, though.
Thank you, guys.
Hi, my name is Michael Vasquez from Captain Cook, Hawaii. I would rather fight 1 beta-sized goose because goose are easy to outsmart. That's just science.
I like that.
Stuff. Yeah.
I feel like people are maybe underestimating this, like a 7-foot-tall goose. But I see the strategy there. Geese have thin necks. It's easy to, ideally the idea is you'd be able to grab a hold of it. Maybe if you're working, maybe if you have a partner, somebody can come along with an axe. But I'm pretty sure a beta-sized goose probably has a very strong neck. So trying to, get your hands around that muscle and manipulate it might be difficult. And those wings are going to be no joke.
Yeah, I think, a lot of people here are being like, oh, yeah, definitely give me the 7-foot-tall goose. And I don't, how many of these people are really stepping up when a goose actually, a regular-sized goose jumps at you? So,
Having been in that very situation, it is terrifying.
I have run. I'm a straight-up bitch when it comes to fighting a regular-sized goose. So if it's a 7-foot one, no thank you.
Wait, so you guys haven't...
There's some very strong, courageous people in the voicemails.
Yes, thank you. I want to see this go down, by the way.
Wait, so you guys are saying you've never strangled a goose before?
Not yet.
That's not code, is it?
All right, so now we're on to our next voicemail.
Hi, my name is Sarah Large, and on social media, I go by Mama Deadhead, and I have a reaction channel. I live in Hickory, North Carolina, and let me just be clear here. I hate birds. They are horrifying. I will not even get out of my car if there is a bird near me. I wouldn't even fight a goose-sized goose. So there's no way I'm going to fight a beta-sized goose. I will take one of the small goose-sized betas, pick him up by the ankles, and swing him around and kill all of the other goose-sized betas. Actually, that sounds like a lot of fun. Regardless of if I get to be on Talk Dead to Me, which I love, by the way. I'm so excited that you guys did this. And, like, woohoo for Jesus Trans. But I just want to say, like, I love what you guys are doing, and thanks for the opportunity. Bye.
Oh, thank you.
Best answer this week. Sarah really crushed it.
She
Sarah,
would take
just
the
slow
goose
clap.
size. Let's try that again.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
We're all gushing over Sarah right now.
You know, I did say 15 seconds or less, but if you guys are just going to, shower us with compliments, I'll let you go over.
You can stretch that to a good 20, 25. Yeah.
And if we're talking about taking a small human by their ankles and beating the other small humans with it, we're here for it.
Excellent answer, Sarah. Excellent answer. We would have accepted 4 goose-sized betas, if you bowled with them, would have accepted you just kind of like picking them up and throwing them various places while little ankle biters were around your waist. But I mean, using one to beat the others, I'm impressed.
See, now you're thinking like a goose.
And and Sarah, I'm okay. So when I was thinking about this, because I did think about it, I definitely went 4 goose-sized betas because I want to see it. I just want to see the poor tiny betas running around with their goose-sized anger.
It's so cute.
Ooh, I like the Song of the Dead. I hope the song never ends. Ooh.
All right, so that is the end of our first ever voicemail line. We're going to be doing it every week, so make sure you guys participate and leave us a voicemail. That number again is 213-536-1275. Eventually, I will have it memorized like you memorized the person you're dating in high school.
In the 90s.
In the 90s. Do you guys, what's the last phone number you've actually memorized? Alexandra, what's the last phone number you actually memorized?
I memorized like all the girls I went to school with. So like in elementary school. So like my friend Sasha's 535-6630. My friend Sarah's 531-5207. If they're listening.
All right. Well, great. I hope you guys all give them a call. Woody, last phone number you memorized?
My wife's, because it's also my Ralph's alternate ID.
That is fantastic.
That's a way to do it.
I love
fantastic.
I love you, Katie.
Oh, shout out to Katie.
She's the real hero here.
She's actually been staying in the corner for every episode, just silently.
She's not pleased.
Yeah, she's shaking her head, arms folded.
Johnny, what do you call that interview with the Brandon? That was just, keep it tighter.
Yeah.
Listen more.
She's a UGA fan, so she really didn't like that.
It's tough.
And Johnny, how about you?
I briefly memorized my last girlfriend's phone number, but the second we broke up, it left my brain.
Probably for the best.
Probably for the best.
That's how the healing starts.
Yep. You kill them and you forget their number.
We're not going to use
Talk
that.
dead to me. Admitting crime since 2019.
That girl can never die.
Well, we hope that you've had a wonderful time talking about the Walking Dead with us. We've had some fun. And remember, we do listen to your voicemails. Thank you so much for the ones this week. It was really, really great. Talk Dead to Me is on all of the major podcasts. Alexandra, what podcast networks are we on?
We are on iTunes. We are on Stitcher. We are on Google Play. We are on Spotify. We are on TuneIn. We are on Overcast. We are on wherever you can download free podcasts. And if you find a platform that we aren't on, do us a favor and let us know. I'm not sure how you're listening to us if we're not on the platform, but you get the idea.
Also, we're going to be trying something new next week. We are going to actually be releasing the podcast on Sunday night right after the episode. Woo! So very exciting.
So subscribe and you'll get that.
You're going to get that
blistering hot takes.
Blistering hot takes. Very exciting. And guys, all right, so from what we saw in the trailer for next week's episode, looks like there might be some more Lydia and Negan action. Lydia might be in trouble. What do you guys, in 10 seconds or less, have any kind of predictions that might happen?
I predict that I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it.
I predict that Negan's going to say at least one thing that makes me go, oh, Negan, you cad.
I think Lydia's going to be made to feel very uncomfortable at least 3 or 4 times.
There's going to be 5 seconds where they talk about, oh no, wait, Lydia was never really with Carl. Never mind.